All right, so this is Red Flag Over Paris, The Rise and Fall of the Paris Commune from Fred Serval and GMT Games. Very cool piece of cover art and a very interesting topic that's not well covered. It's not something you're going to see it's very common. It's not a Battle of the Bulge or Stalingrad game, okay? This is a new topic, and that intrigues me. The box itself is a little bit smaller than your typical game box. So your typical game box will be like this big. So you can see the footprint is somewhat smaller than what you typically have. So the rule book itself, you can see if I scale it with my hand, this is a little bit smaller of a rule book, the same size as the Fort Sumter box, if that helps. The rules itself are only 11 pages, 12 if you include the back cover. Full color. There's not a lot of complexity here. You can learn this game, I think, pretty easy, and there's lots of strategy in this. So a lot of game in a small box. Big, thick playbook. There's 44 pages, including the back cover. You have examples of play in here. Everything you need to know to get started, it's found in here, plus a ton of historic information. You did have a couple of play aids. Now, I wish these were a little bit bigger and there was more to them. They are on a nice card stock. It feels like it's got some kind of a coating to it, but it has all the information you need for your two-player game and for your bot if you're playing against the Versailles or against the Commune. You can play solitaire either way against either opponent. The play aids are identical on the opposite side of the play aid, so you can see there it is the same content. There's a few things on here. I think that, there's a few things on here. I wish that there was a little bit more. I wish it was a little bit bigger. But aside from that, nice play aids. And again, they're not paper. This is cardstock. It has a nice stability to it. Feels solid. And here's your game map. We'll unfold that here in just a moment. Bag full of wooden cubes, red, blue, a couple discs for your forts and barricades, a couple pawns to mark victory locations. And there is a die included, which is only used in the solitaire game, one deck of cards. So we'll go ahead and pull the map out, set this thing up, and see how it looks on the table. All right, here is a look at the game board. I actually have it unfolded, it's set up. I do apologize for the glare, but if I don't put these mounted boards under plexiglass, they will immediately begin to warp, and the same is true of the cards. I just live in a really dry climate, and as a consequence, the cards, especially fresh off the press, when they meet this dry air, they curl up on you. So card sleeves actually help them keep their shape, and if I want to remove the card sleeves later on, the cards will retain their shape. Same thing with using a mounted board new out of the box. So after that explanation, this is what it looks like set up. It's got a nice evocative look on the table, which is really nice. I've actually got it set up to play a solitaire game against the Commune solo. So we can take a look at some of the cards, and you can see the card artwork is fantastic. You draw 4 cards every turn. You draw 2 objectives. You pick which one you want. The others removed from the game. In the solitaire game, it's a little bit different. You pick one for yourself, one for your opponent. So you do have an edge in that, but the opponent is going to get some advantages that you would not get in a 2-player game, and there's no tiebreaker rule. So if you don't win a clear victory against the bot, you will lose the game. So there is definitely some challenge there for the player. So that's basically what the game is going to look like. You're going to pick your objective, put it in the little objective space on the board. So if I wanted to give this one to myself and maybe give this one to the opposition, that's where I'd put those cards. In a face-to-face game, you would put those face down so that they obviously they couldn't see it. Then you play, each player will play 3 cards in sequence depending on who has the initiative card. If you decide not to go first and you're holding this card, you decide to go first or second. If you decide, I'm going to go second, you would flip the card over to the other side, pass it to your opponent. They would then go first, you go second. The next turn, the winner of initiative is reevaluated, and you do the same thing all over again. And so you're going to play cards in sequence by the order determined by initiative, back to back to back. If you play a card, You may play it for its ops or for its event if the event is aligned with you. So if you're the Versailles or blue player, you can't play the red events, and you don't want to play the red events. So it's kind of like 1960 or Twilight Struggle or Labyrinth in that respect. If you play a card that is associated with your opponent, it goes to the top of the discard pile. Your opponent could then play a card from their hand that is equal or greater op value of the card that's at the top of the discard in order to trigger its event. So there is a way that you can, cause these events could be caused to be triggered, and so it goes. There are also gray events that are always valued at 3 ops and can be played by either player for their op value or for the event. Each player also has a Final Crisis card, which is worth 4 op points unless it's played in the very final round of the game. The Final Crisis round, you can only play events. So whenever you finish playing all 3 of your cards, both players are down to 1 card in their hand. Their final card in their hand will go into a stack face down, and that will be their hand on the final round of the game. So kind of like how debates are handled in 1960, there's some familiarity there. So in the Final Crisis round, you're going to determine an initiative. You're going to play the cards that you've set aside previously in the game in whatever order that you want, but you can only play them for the events. If you have a card in your Final Crisis stack that's associated with your opponent, it's going to trigger, it's going to happen, but at least you get to decide when it happens. So there you go. There you got it. There are 12 spaces on the map. There are 4 different, call them suits of spaces. They're called dimensions, but they're really like suits. So you have the Paris 3 spaces, and then you have the forts 3 spaces. You have, what's this one? Institutional 3 spaces, and then you have public opinion 3 spaces. Within each suit or dimension, one of them is marked. It's kind of counterintuitive to me because I always associate the symbol with a fort, but it's the pivotal location in each dimension. So even though all three of these are technically speaking forts, this is the critical one. Whoever controls that space is going to have an advantage at the end of each round. So it's going to be very similar to Fort Sumter in that respect. You control a space if you're the only person to have a cube in there. So right now the press is uncontrolled. Social movements are controlled by the commune. Royalists control, the Versailles control the royalist space. You can only place new cubes into a space that you control or that you are present in. Let's put it that way. Spaces that you're present in or adjacent to spaces that you control. So that, and you can only remove cubes from those spaces. Cubes that get removed, blue cubes that get removed, they go into the cube pool. Red cubes that get removed, they go into the cube pool for the red side. But the red side is going to be dependent on their revolutionary momentum. Currently, they have a cube pool space of 0. So any cube that's removed at the beginning of the game is removed permanently from the game because there's no space to receive it in the cube pool. Once this marker gets advanced, there'll be 2 spaces to receive cubes. Otherwise, you take cubes from this track, from the center of the board, progressing outward. And as soon as you take a cube from the next band, you get these as bonus, and they go into your cube pool, provided you have space for it. And so that's basically a gist. There's more to the game than that, but that gives you a sense of what comes in the box and a little bit of an overview of what to expect. The gameplay is very tense, very exciting, and it's very easy to learn and play. And if you lose, the gameplay is quick. You can set up and try it again. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoy this game. I recommend you check it out. There is a Vassal module designed for it, and it is a really, really fun game.